Okay, hello everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the restart of our international online seminar on interval methods in control engineering after the Christmas and New Year's break. And our first speaker in 2026 will be Florian Poutier, who is a postdoc researcher at the moment at the Laboratoire des Sciences du Numérique de Nantes obviously in Nantes in France. And he's especially working on visual odometry and navigation algorithms for drone navigation in cluttered environment. And today he will present his work on self-triggered control and invariant sets for safe and spare robot navigation. Florian, we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Andreas, for the nice introduction, and thank you for your invitation to this seminar on interval methods. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you today. So I take the opportunity also to wish to everybody an happy new year for 2026 with all the best wishes. And today my talk will be on some strategy mixing both state-of-the-art control methods, which are self-triggered control, and another method on invariant set, which is more related to the topic of this seminar. And these techniques are used either for the safe and spare robot navigation. So to give you a bit of context, so mobile robots usually embed high consumption sensors for localization. We can think, for instance, to the GNSS localization system, which is taking much energy, but also embedded LiDAR for local localization. And my particular focus on which is from my PhD to this work was on the navigation of quadrotor in dark and clutter environment. And in this navigation context, there are lots of constraints. So, for instance, the GNSS Daniel environment, it leads us to consider visual initial odometry for the localization on the quadrotor. And since these are dark environments, you must also find the compatible sensors for this localization. So this induces that you must take some lighting system. And the fact that you need some lighting system for the localization, then you must manage the energy on board the quadrotor with this lighting system. So if you want to increase the quadrotor autonomy, then you will need to reduce the light power consumption. And you must also reduce the light dissipated power to improve the light cooling on the quadrotor to avoid overheating the injuries on board the quadrotor. So this induces the need of the spare usage of sensors in a more general case to reduce the onboard energy consumption. And while you are using these sensors sparingly and asynchronously, you must also find some way to guarantee safety of your robot when you are not looking at the system measurement. And this is why I want to show you in this presentation today how reachability and invariance can play a role into the self-triggered strategies for mobile robots. So let's start with the first part on reachable and invariant sets for this purpose. So for the reachability of control systems, so you consider here that the control system is described by some continuous time ordinary differential equation. And then you define what we call a reachability problem, which in fact here takes the form of an initial value problem based on initial condition. And what you want to do is to solve this problem. So what you will generally have is the nominal solution, which is explicitly given by a continuous time integration. But in the case where you have a control system with some event efficiency, your IVP is modified and the initial conditions and disturbances are in fact encompassed in steps. So your solution is not anymore the nominal solution, but it is also a set number fit integration of a set number fit integration, and it provides you a cube like the orange cube that you see on this figure. And there are plenty of ways of set propagation techniques. So in the work of Altos, here you have a survey on plenty of set propagation techniques. For instance, interval, boxes, polytopes, ellipsoids, and donatops. And my particular focus in this work will be on the reachability and invariance with polytopes. So the representation of polytopes. So the computation methods on polytopes are powerful for analyzing the constraint linear systems, and they are also convenient to integrate systems, especially when they are described by distinct time linear systems. And I will show you later that it is really convenient to have a polytope in such cases. So what is a polytope? A polytope is a closed and bounded polyhedron, and in fact, it can be described by using two representations that are dual from one to each other. The first one is the Nates representation, which is in fact an intersection of a given number of spaces, and its dual, the V representation, which is the convex
Ah
hull
ouais, mais non.
of vertices. And yet, so we have both representations. So they are required for the polyhedral control design. So here, they will be needed for the computation of reachable and invariant sets. And we also need, in fact, an efficient fitting between these representations for the real-time polyhedral algorithm, since sometimes for some computations you will be required to have the host cases representation, and at over time it will be more convenient to have vertices. And what I want to say with that is that you have to find the tools or to develop them to handle this constraint of having to fit between representations when you are deploying your algorithms on board mobile robots. Okay, so let's get into the reachability. The reachability, especially as I said on this section linear computation. So this is considered since in the general case you will have to implement your algorithm on mobile robots which have a controller which are working in a discrete time fashion. So here you have a location with the discovery system state and the control set. And here the disturbances are in context in the polytope, since this is the representation that we have chosen. And you can also consider that the initial condition also belongs to some initial polytope. And what we can do is to build a forward reachability map of this system, which is a local disturb system. And what you see appearing here is some operator, which is the native system operator for the reachability computation. So given here two polytopes A1 and A2, if I want to sum them with the uncertainty operator, I will have to take the A1 set, first the A2 set on the vertices of the first vector, and taking in fact the convex hull of this figure. You can graphically see it as moving the A2 polytope on the border of the A1 polytope, and then taking the convex hull of this part. And by definition, since you have an intersystem which is in fact a set of vector sums, then these sums are clearly calculable in the representation with vertices. You can extend the reachability to multiple steps. So you have here a recursive construction of your reachable set. So if you take some RK at the instant K polytope, then you multiply it by the state matrix evolution. You add the disturbance polytope that can occur at this time, and then you take the convex hull to produce the next reachable set of the system. So this recursion will produce the convex incomplex set, and in fact, you will have a sequence of polytopes. So you have here, for instance, a reachable set sequence for double integrator. So this type of case, you will see it also later when we will consider it for the case of the quadrator, since you can linearize the quadrator as double integrator. I will come back to this later. So now that we have discussed the reachability, let's talk about the invariance. But to talk about the invariance in control system, you need to apply some state feedback to your system. In fact, to obtain a closed loop discharge system. And you will choose some state feedback with a feedback gain, of course, which is selected to ensure the synthetic stability. This is the requirement to compute invariant sets for your system. So you now have a new forward reachability map, which is a reachability map for the closed loop system, and then you will be able to have the computation of invariant sets. So by definition, a set is an invariant set if when you apply the forward reachability map to this set, this map will end with the set which is included inside this set. So to make it more understandable, an invariant set is that if you consider some state trajectory it is inserted inside the invariant set, then it will remain in this set forever if you apply the SOS closed loop state feedback, whatever the disturbance in the bounded disturbance polytope. And so you don't have only one invariant set, you have plenty of invariant sets. In fact, in state space, the group of invariant sets define a lattice vector, and you have some ordering of the invariant set. So, for instance, you have the minimal invariant set. So, if I take the mix, which is the intersection of all invariant sets inside this lattice, I will fall into the minimal robust invariant set. And if I take the zone, which is the minimum is the state of the all the invariant sets, I will lie to the maximal invariant set. So what we have to understand here is that the minimal and maximal invariant sets are in fact dependent of the the closed loop state matrix, the polyset of disturbances, and the state space, the response state. And you have here a minimal invariant set which is not the original set. You have some disturbance polyset which is not empty. So you will, by construction, have some minimal invariant set. And also you will have a maximal invariant set which is not the full space K or N, since you have a space constraint X which is contained inside the whole space or N. So to go deeper into the computation and understanding of this two type of sets, so the minimal and maximal one. So the minimal one, in fact, you can compute it explicitly by taking the forward reachability map and its sense. So here we have modified the reachable sequence from the recursive form to the explicit form. And you have this Minkowski summation. And if you take this summation to infinity, then you will lie into the minimal invariant set. However, if you do that way, you end in fact with an infinite Minkowski form, and you will have in fact a set, a polytope which will be represented by an infinite number of vertices. So it is not possible at all. So since it is not explicitly calculable, what we want to do here is to find a factorable approximation of this minimal invariant set, which is closed as we want from the real minimal invariant set. So what we do here is we choose some precision, some epsilon precision, to get an outer epsilon approximation of the limit minimal invariant set. And here we have an outer epsilon approximation, which is in fact including the real limit minimal invariant set, and it is included inside this minimal invariant set plus the ball of the radius epsilon. And you want to find this outer epsilon approximation of the minimal invariant set. Some algorithms are existing for that, so they provide some rules to have some scaling and some index to set the solution at the right moment, scale the set, and have the outer epsilon approximation at the right moment. So with the desired precision. For the maximal invariant set, so what you want to do with the maximal invariant set, in fact, is to find all the state trajectories which are satisfying the state space limit of your function set X. So for that, you will take the backward reachability map. So to understand that, you have to think from which part of the state space function I can come to lie into an invariant set. And this is why you compute the invariant set, the maximum invariant set that way. And so here, since you are in backward, you are seeing that you have the controlling difference of the set, which is appearing. And here you have an example of the construction of the controlling difference. This is the controlling difference is A1 minus A2 is to find the set of all elements to which adding the A2 as an input system will produce something that is included inside A1. You are seeing that quite graphically on the slide, and yes, this is the consolidation difference. And the problem or challenge with this type of operator is that the distance will fit the number of hyperplanes of the set of the A1. And so here, computationally, you will need in fact the H representation of your set. So this is why I talked before that you need something to convert the representations efficiently. However, when you have these tools working, you can compute a system that will convert the factors to a finitely determined maximal invariant set. So in the general case, instead of the minimal invariant set, the maximal invariant set is generally finitely determined under some conditions. That is, you are not selecting space constraint X too small, small enough to not even include the minimal invariant set. In that case, of course, you have the convergence of your algorithm. And graphically, what we can observe is that the maximal invariant set will encircle the square of its constraints X. So here you have two examples of maximal invariant set with two different X state space constraints. So you have at the left the state space constraint in velocity. So this show you if I reduce the velocity to this interval, I can take these positions given the disturbance polytope and the closure traffic. And I have also the example when respecting to on the positions on the right figure. In that case, you are showing an invariant set in which you have limited velocity. You cannot approach the position limit with whatever velocity, since you won't lie anymore in an invariant set. You will have safety. Okay, so this ends the part about the tools to build this method. So now I'll move on the self-trigger control on invariant to have the self-trigger controller based on this switchable invariant. So to get a bit of definitions about the self-trigger controller, so in the literature, what we are seeing is that we have two types of asynchronous control processes, which are the event triggered and set triggered control. For the event triggered control, what we have is that we are monitoring the state of the system or some function of the state periodically in time, but we think at some moment to keep the state, to measure it or to update it in your controller when you have some preference. And you have the counterpart, which is the set-triggered controller. Since the difference is that you have to predict the next system in which you will take measurements. So you don't have access to the full space between two updates. So you have at the previous update to know when you want to take a new update to keep the controller stable at the same time. And since in your context, we will consider no information between the events, so we will move to a set-triggered paradigm. So we are able, from the last state measurement, to define when I should take a new state measurement to keep my controller, my self-trigger controller stable. So some definition of the self-trigger feedback. So a self-trigger feedback is defined by two functions. It is defined by an event function. It will indicate if a control update is needed or not, and feedback function, which define the applied feedback at event and between events. So it is quite reasonable to assume that at pivot response, since you have to change new state measurement, you will apply the state feedback with the accurate measurement. And between events, you will define some feedback function, which can take, in fact, various control profiles. In the literature, we have two types of feedback function. We have a fast controller where the feedback function will enforce the control cut to zero between two events. You just apply the state feedback at the accurate measurement instance, and then you send zero to the controller. You have another way of doing the feedback function, which is with a zero holder hold. You hold the control cut which has been computed at the last event instance. And you can even do better if you have some knowledge of your model by applying a control sequence based on the nominal closed-loop dynamics data model. And so in this work, I will consider a model-based controller since we assume that we have some knowledge on the model of our system. This leads us, so we have all the bricks to build our self-triggered stabilization strategy on invariant. So our self-trigger controller acts that way. So between two event systems, what you will do is to let different systems evolve freely. By the same way, you are computing the reachable sequence of the set of the sequence of reachable set. So the sequence with the self-trigger control. So you have the summation with the open loop matrix, and you also have the nominal closed loop system on which these sets are controlled. What you will do is to detect when these reachable sets are going to contact or will cross the limits which are given here by the right set, which is an invariant set. That is to say, you are generating an update and you see that the reachable sequence receives the invariant set, and then you will trigger multiple measurements at this next time to remain the state inside the invariant set. And then you repeat from the first step by building some reachable set sequence. If you detect some relation on the invariant set, you take a new measurement, and so on. And this strategy will guarantee that the state constant satisfaction every time, and that your system state remains inside the invariant set at each time. Since you are taking the system measurement at the right instance before some possible state of the system lie outside the invariant set. So the invariant set is publishing as some state set in which I want to remain to have the guarantees that the system is stable. And we have some experimental results on this strategy to validate this theoretical strategy. So now we can apply this strategy to our mobile robot of interest. So this will be the quadrotor. So As I said before, we are able, it is quite usual when you want to use linear objects is to linearize the quadrature model around another real point. And basically, what you are assuming is that you have your quadrature with a customer loop, which assume that your angles are reached sufficiently quickly to have a magnitude loop which is stable. So you only look about the position and velocity behavior of the system, which is related to angle and thrust method. So that's why you have a linear model that you can discretize. So in general, the sub-rotors, we have embedded controllers that are running at 100 Hz. So here we have a discretization of our linear model around the overlaying point. So on one motion axis, for instance, the x-axis, which will be responsible for which the pitch angle will be responsible. So you compute some feedback dynamics with given linear quadratic performance equivalent to build your circuit matrix. And you consider also a function of your cadences. It is obtained by experimental identification. And with the consistent matrix and this input, you are able to compute a minimal invariant approximation of the effect. So for instance, here we consider some precision at 10 minus 3 for to have, in fact, physically a minimal invariant set which is with a millimeter level precision. What we are seeing here is that on the X position, you are able, with this type of closed loop, with this principal dependency, your quadrature approach uh, at can approach in the best case at around 40 centimeters from a wall, for instance. And what I will show in the next experiment is that this is the minimal effect. What you generally do is to consider maximal invariant effects to approach walls that are further from this limit of 40 centimeters. Okay, this leads to our application. So here our application is the quadrature in dark environment. So this is part of a research project which is the darkness project, taking inspiration from plastic cities, which are cities with person behavior and we want to apply this type of testing strategy on board the quadrature planning with the dark for the reason I mentioned before. We want to basically reduce the consumption due to the license. For that, in that project, we designed the sensor with synchronizing the images with the light tracking to take images in there. And we are able also from these images to make some visual illustration which can be used not imposed from this class images. And next, we will close the loop, in fact, with all the tools that I mentioned before. So you take the distance to obstacles from the map built by the plan. You are able to complete the safe path and safety too. So these are, in fact, the reachable invariant tubes of pointers that we discussed before. and you apply the self-trigger controller on the tube to maintain the reachable tube inside the environment tube of safety. This is more or less what is synthesized in this slide. So the reachable tube is in fact the open loop dynamics. Between two classes, let mouse quadrator evolve blindly without classes, but integrating by the way the interfaces. I have the environment tube which is aware from obstacles, from the quantitative obstacles, and from the closed dynamics. And the self-trigger controller is triggering new measurements, so new energy for the current before the reachability tube crosses the safety limit. So the safety limit given by the director. Okay, so some conclusion on the achievements and the perspective of this course. So we managed to have a self-trigger navigation of the room based on those images in the context of the darkness project. So this is the phase navigation in the dark and UNSS denied environment. So the main achievement is to have an SDR vector and the overspeaking acceleration on board the server. And more methodologically, I would say, is that we have a framework to use in the handset for the space and sphere navigation of products. So you have this result that can be expanded to a wide range of robots and cyber physical systems. Basically, you can apply this strategy to every control system which come with a schedule of energy and disaster. After with the requirement that you need some pure knowledge and the system modeling disturbances to build your concept recommend and implement. What I thought really interesting in this work is that you are able to bridge the gap between mathematical theoretical objects and the physical unit. So the invariant set here analyzing the obstacle avoidance in navigation since it needs to develop a physical unit. And also another thing that I not mentioned before, but I think will be mentioned. Since you have the pieces with the management of the real-time management of representations of polytops, for the analytic calculations, you need some library of polytops, and I'm currently working on some library which is still in development, but hopefully 2026 will be the year of the first release of this library. Some perspective. So from the darkness project side of view, I think one perspective would be to handle more complex environments, for instance, outdoor caves or tunnels, and enhance the guaranteed teleoperation. So you consider a teleoperation case with a remote operator and the trajectories. More theoretically, I want also to investigate some things of the controllers using the effect. So we have seen that for the moment on the quadrator, the controller is given some linear quadratic recurrence. So maybe it would be interesting to also consider the state of the minimal environment within the controller. And also the autonomous navigation. So with an engineering space path planning, using environment to generate safe trajectories beside the obstacle. And we can also go towards more joint-style mobile robots. For instance, taking the example also from the class IT from the volume transmitting ceremony for the multi-agent system, how multi-agent systems can communicate together with the less information possible. So it's also linked with the self-failure control, actually, and extend the flash-based strategies or self-failure control strategies to other types of vehicles, underwater vehicles, terrestrial vehicles, and so on. So thank you for attention, and let's start the discussion. Thank you.
So many thanks, Florian, for a very interesting presentation, and I'm pretty sure there will be some questions concerning your talk. Now, who wants to start? Just unmute yourself and go ahead. If not, I have a list of 4 questions on my sheet of notes. I would firstly like to start with the slide number 12, where you mentioned the state measurement.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what you are doing at the moment is you're measuring the complete state.
Yes.
Uh, have you already thought about integrating something like an observer or state reconstruction scheme in an optimal fashion into this procedure, where you're also doing something like an event-triggered state reconstruction? For example, the works that Nassim Ramdani is doing with an event-triggered state estimator. I think this could be fused quite nicely also to reduce then afterwards, if you do not have full state measurement, also the effort for state reconstruction.
Yes, definitely. So, in from a theoretical point of view, what we first managed is just to say we have no information on the state between two measurements. In fact, this is quite false, especially on quadrotor, since you have some measurements that are available and that are not energy consuming, which are the information coming from the inertial measurement unit. And this inertial measurement unit is giving you measurements of angles quite for free, I would say. So yes, definitely, I'm working here now to end the darknet project, and we are moving towards this type of strategy to also have some information between the updates coming from the initial measurement rate that could be integrated to yes, to improve the knowledge of the system between the code. So yes, technically, this is something that we are currently considering.
Yeah, okay, many thanks. And the other question that I have was in this backward reachability analysis that you had on the slide number 9.
Yes.
Uh,
Uh,
because what you have, if you have designed a state feedback control in forward direction, which is asymptotically stable,
yes.
this
Okay.
inverse direction represents unstable dynamics. That means if you have the matrix ACL having all the eigenvalues within the unit disk,
Yes.
the inverse has the eigenvalues outside.
Yes.
Does this impose any, let's say, implementational restrictions concerning the efficiency of the backward evaluation? Do you need something like domain splitting procedures? I'm seeing that Gian is here in this talk, and he also proposed a couple of months ago in one of our previous seminar strategies for splitting sonotopes, for example. Do you need something like this in order to get tight enclosures for backward propagation, or do you just apply this what you have at the backward map just naively and do the calculation here of the Pontryagin difference, and that's all?
Yes. So in fact, you're right. So this backward reachability map will create a sequence of growing steps, and you need some way of restricting them. So the way you restrict this growing behavior is with the intersection here. I don't know if you see my cursor. The intersection with the X constant set. So by taking the intersection with the X set, in which the terminal basically and the next level, now restricted growing behavior. And
Okay, that,
this
that means the intersection is already doing the job for
exactly.
limiting the blow up.
Yes, It's yes, it's limiting the blow up, and basically in Polytops it works great to have this type of intersection by taking the all spaces representation. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, okay. And the last one was a question concerning the forward reachability on the slide 7 that I have. Because I think especially for your robotic systems, it's quite natural that you have disturbances where you could assume maybe that you have bounds, but they are changing over time. That means you really have this W subscript K, that at each point in time you have a new realization of the disturbance from this bounded set. Have you considered also scenarios where you know a priori that the disturbance is bounded but constant in the bounds? Would you then move the disturbance to a further component in the state vector and insert this as a discrete time integrator? Or what would then be your procedure? Because then your method that you're using is more pessimistic than necessary.
Yes, obviously, yes, it's overestimating since yes, you have this set, this polytope which is constant basically. It does not move, it does not change along the experiment, I would say, and along the use of the quadrature. So yes, I don't have a procedure for the moment, but I think I would be interesting to manage the case where you have some more sensor, for instance, disturbances sensor that could be, for instance, on quadrators, air gust sensor, like pitot sound or something like this, and to change the shape of this polytope. So it's not something on which I'm working for the moment. Yes, since I'm just considering the worst case basically, but yes, maybe in an environment where you will have more various cases and more different phenomenon, maybe this is not the best case, and maybe you can do something better. I agree, but for the moment, it's not something I'm considering.
Okay, great. Many thanks for answering my questions. And let's see again. We still have several participants. Anyone with other questions? If so, Gian, you have unmuted yourself. You
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
start?
can I ask a question? Thanks.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, for this page 7, you say the state space is position and velocity.
Exactly.
Yeah, is there any chance if we look physically like an invariant, maybe you only consider like X, Y, Z? Is possible to compute like whatever distance you are fly in certain arrow? Not
So
necessarily the state, in your state space model.
I'm not sure to understand the question about maybe on the state part.
Yes,
Sorry.
I mean for this is your two state.
Yes.
State physically, I mean invariant. Maybe you are consider only like position.
Yes. Yes.
Is
Well.
there any way that we can consider like a domain that X Y Z, like for example? How-
Yes. So yes. Here, in fact, you are in position velocity on one direction axis, if I understand right the question. And in fact, on quadrators, you have basically three axes. So for the moment, the main consideration is to consider the axis decoupled. So with the assumption that I made on the attitude loop. So you end with computing three double integrator system. I don't know this answer your question about?
Yeah. It's just I say the state is not necessarily physically what we want for invariant.
Yes, definitely. No, yes, it's a restriction that is made. I think you can also go to higher dimensions to really capture the best way the whole modelization of your system at the price of computational cost, of course. Here, the assumption of having this decoupled axis is quite convenient for computation.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank
Yeah, I have no.
you for the question. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions?
Hi, I do have a small question.
Yeah,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Yes, so I'm Morgan, by the way, even though the name is not full on the Zoom. I was wondering, Florian, if you could explain me how you choose the number of edges in your polytopes.
Yes. So actually, I don't choose so much the number of edges of my polytope. The fact is that here in a second order system, I have a disturbance polytope which is with 4 vertices, and then maybe I can just go on the reachable sequence. Yeah. Okay. So here my polytope is of disturbances is of 4 vertices, but when integrating with the reachable set sequence here, the number of vertices will increase since you have multiplied by your state A matrix and added this disturbance polytope. So obviously, here, what you are seeing on this sequence of 10 times sets is our reachable sets with a growing number of vertices. And of course, you hope that the set figure controller at some time will trigger a new update to come back to an initial reachable set with 4 vertices. But yes, for reachable sets, this is the growing number of vertices. For invariant sets, it also depends. It also depends on the complexity of your polytope of disturbances, but it also depends on your closed-loop matrix ACL and on the epsilon approximation that you choose. The lowest epsilon you choose, the approximation will be with net vertices. For instance, here in the next slide, I'm considering some precision with 10 minus to the minus 2. You have the minimum invariant set with 400 vertices, I would say. So just to give you an idea. And the complexity, however, is lower on the maximal invariant set, since you have what we discussed before with Andreas, with the intersection with the state constraint X. So here you have, for instance, for the maximal invariant set, you will have something with set with 30 vertices, I would say. Don't know if it answers the question, but just to give you an idea of the number of vertices and the complexity of this polytope.
Okay, and so for the moment where you use your control, how many edges do you have at in this implementation?
This is the number that I said. So for the maximal invariant set, you have 30 vertices. For the reachable set, it can grow to 20, 30 vertices also, since you are triggering quite quickly. We can have it quickly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morgan.
Okay, any further questions? In fact, that's the last chance for further questions. If not, then many thanks again, Florian, for your presentation. Also, many thanks to all the participants. And yeah, it was really nice to have you here again for the restart of our seminar after the Christmas break. And yeah, we'll continue soon with the upcoming seminars. And until then, the only thing that is left for me now is have a nice remaining Friday afternoon, Friday evening, nice weekend. And yeah, stay healthy and see you soon.